How's it going? My name is Tyler Thompson. Helped start My Favorite Chair LLC, MFC.GG. It's what we go as now, and what we're trying to achieve is, manufacturing, home office, and e-sport equipment, and a lot of those can be interchangeable, especially with a lot of people working at home, playing esports from their, you know, office desk, and we just want to be able to supply that. We want to supply both like athletic and high-end office equipment, but we're gonna make all of this made in the USA. But point of this video is it's extremely challenging, right? To start a company, to start an idea, to go after, even if it's just a thought with a friend, which coincidentally is where this started. I was down with a friend at a community pool in his area, and we were just sitting around by the poolside, drinking a couple White Claws, and he's like, Ty, how do we come up with our own company? What should we do? And he's like, I know made in America, that's an important shift in economic shift in manufacturing. There's a lot of companies reshoring. Basically, reshoring is when companies are bringing back manufacturing to the States, but if they're already established. And I was like, well, at the time I was working a lot with Tesla suit, a high-end biometric haptic feedback suit. And I had gotten a lot of contacts and been working with a lot of people in the industry with esports. And it became readily apparent that a lot of the equipment in esports is still made overseas. And then with, some research, it was very obvious that a lot of home office and still a lot of just general corporate equipment is made overseas. And so, when you start looking down, all the lists online, on Google, even on Amazon, and on, individual brands, you start to see that a lot of it's made overseas. Maybe components are made here in the USA, but none of them are, a lot of them are not stamping made in the USA. And, which ultimately means that over 51% of the product is made overseas. Because that in general, right, give or take some balances, is in general what the government will look at is 51% and 51% made in the USA, and if the product itself does not change significantly based on something else. So if you had if you had an item that was 51% made here in the USA, right? Say you had, actually, let's just take a table. So you had a table that was made in the USA. 51% of it was the legs, right? But then the other 49% was the tabletop, and that was manufactured, overseas. So arguably, is it a table, right? Like, until you put them together. So the tabletop would be something that the U.S. government would look at and say, well, even though it's 49%, it's arguably not made in the USA because it's two components. It's not a table until you take that 49%, and but it's still arbitrary. So everything I've researched doesn't show anything specific. There's no hard line, and the consultants I've worked with out of Colorado, even in Chicago, they're like, there's no hard line. But they will do an audit of your product, right? And they will review it and say, all right, how much of this is manufactured in the USA? So one of our things is we're doing a sit to stand table, and instead of screwing around with it, I was like, nope, 100% made in the USA. We're not going to mess with this. We're not going to double think it. As we start to learn a bit more, we'll figure that out. But again, coming back to the idea of make it in the USA, right? That was where we wanted to look at. So to start, after that idea was spawned, we had to come up with a name, right? But that's the fun stuff. We came up with My Favorite Chair or My Favorite Company, and then MFC as a DBA. We submitted for LLC. Technically, the LLC is My Favorite Chair LLC, or incorporated in Oregon. And then it was, start to develop the business case, right? Arguably, I probably should have developed the full-fledged business case before I even incorporated, but it wasn't that challenging to actually get incorporated. We'll go through that in another video. But then it was build a business case, right? And that's really kind of online on Google, they'll be like, they'll lay it out for you. But this is my experience and what we did. And I kind of pitched it like a sales deck, right? And wanting to think, all right, if I had to say this to somebody, what would they say back to me, right? So, and hopefully this overlaps, in the video when I go through it. But so what is, the idea is my favorite chair, right? And then it was, what is it? What is my favorite chair? What does that mean, right? Like, and our thesis was, we're looking to make things in America, right? Currently, sports equipment, a lot of it is made overseas, dominating in, Taiwan, Singapore, and China. And the industry, the esports industry specifically, is growing, 20% year over year. Through 2030, it's expected to grow, 23% year over year. And there's a lot of models out there, right? You can do, basic research to find, information like that to show that, a lot of things are a lot of, like, for instance, the straight search or statista.com, they'll run massive, graphs. And I misspoke. It wasn't 23%. It was 21.9% for the global esport market year over year. But, and then the next tab was why. Right? Why are we doing it? We have the what, but why? And this is more like, it felt more like a brand core value, right? I wrote it anyways, and I thought it was important. So the original, and it's changed dramatically because it was way too Americana originally. So it was like, MFC will bring American patriotism to esports by offering a made in the USA esports gaming chair. American teams have dominated esports while sitting in chairs made overseas in Taiwan, South Korea, China. These teams deserve a chair that represents the country they call home, who represents the skill, diversity, and all-around dominance that they bring to the game. MFC vows to bring the same level of dedication to the chairs we build. We promise to listen and involve with the industry as it grows. MFC is built on the premise that we represent you, and we will ensure we build our chairs to meet our consumers' expectations when they say, that is my favorite chair. Obviously, I was testing out my own thought, my own voice, right? Definitely want to be made in America. I don't want it to be overtly just like, hey, just because it's American. No, because it's also manufactured locally, right? It's made locally. We've reduced the carbon footprint. We don't have to use, massive freight ships to get a product from Vietnam or Malaysia or China, right? So we've significantly reduced our impact on the industry, and we don't have massive delays to have those shipped. Anyone who's been in kind of freight can tell you, a good time frame would be 4 to 6 weeks after it's manufactured just to get overseas and get through customs, but these days it's just like, holy hell, it can get held up dramatically at port, right? Depends if 2 ships come in, and then it depends on if there's enough trucks to pick up from those ships. Most of the people, when there was backlog, didn't realize that it wasn't the ships necessarily at fault for bringing the cargo. It was, we didn't have enough trucks, and it wasn't necessarily that we didn't have enough trucks. We didn't have a specific piece to be able to pick up the trailers on the trucks, right? And so it's just like so many small things that can, backlog and make it like delayed. But with that in the US, right, you manufacture in the US, right, then your delivery time frame is how long it gets you, one pallet to another, and that could take maybe 12 days, right? At most, like in most situations, it's probably going to get there in 7 to 8 days, but just depends on YRC, depends on whatever freight company you're using, but relatively you're probably reducing that freight time by a month and a half probably, right? Especially when if you have an influx in orders, if you have a university or college or corporate company that wants to purchase and they're like, hey, I want this now. It's like, well, faster turnaround time, and again, made local, and reducing that carbon footprint, and improving and increasing American jobs, right? And that to me is like community, right? That does speak volumes. I want to increase the amount of jobs that we have for Americans, right? And industry jobs, right? When we were growing up, God, they told us you got to get a college degree. I felt like that was just slammed into us, but it's not true, right? And you can make significant dollars by working in trade, by working in the industry, by being a truck driver. Hell, they make six figures, after a certain amount of time. Um, so I think it speaks volumes to want to increase jobs, increase trade, increase manufacturing here in the U.S. And again, that is a core value of MFC. That why that we were speaking to. Definitely gonna rewrite that and what it really means. But truly, that was like the understanding of like that's what we want to do. We just want to increase community, increase jobs, increase trade, and and then with that, I want to work with these manufacturers as we get further into this to kind of show, like, with these videos, take little clips of like, what they're doing, with like Gasser out of Ohio, someone we put in contact with, how it works, how they, stitch, how they leather, how they, do the foaming process, how they do the tooling process, right? Show people, this is kind of like engineering, right? Show people the tools of the trade, show people the different components, and maybe get more people involved and interested in that kind of work. So I mean, that was kind of a tangent, but going back to the business case of the deck, we did the why, we did the what, the why, and then it was market potential, right? You have a product, you have an idea, and you're like, well, all right, what's next? And so the next portion was just going through, like what is the value of each industry. So like home office equipment industry in the USA is $14 billion, right? So that's sales, right? That's how much is sold annually for just home office equipment, right? So then what's another stat or market potential? Well, 36 million Americans will work from home by 2025. There's a significant shift from corporate office, to home office. You're seeing kind of a back and forth shift, but right now what we're looking at is by 2025, 36 million Americans will work from home. So they got to outfit their houses, right? So we saw that as significant. Another component that we were looking at is worldwide esports industry is looking to reach about $5 billion by 2030. Now that doesn't just say the US, but that is the whole industry overall. But the fastest growing market for esports, North America, which is not shocking. You have teams like Cloud9, right, dominating esports. You have teams like Version 1. The New York Subliners just won Call of Duty. There's a lot of teams here, right? And it's incredible to see esport athletes and esports growing so dramatically. I can't wait to see, in the future, Team USA versus like Team Germany or Team China or Team South Korea, right? And have like, I don't know, a world venue where it's, maybe World Cup-esque. That would be awesome. I mean, we already have, leagues, tournaments that are just massive, 50 million win buyouts. So it's like, but I would like to see it. And it's going to get there. But, so then showing, the overall interest, overall, market, value, and then you kind of get into, show some stats, right? Do the research for your business case, go to, some of these, like I said earlier, status data, straits research, and pull some of this data, pull like the growth of USA furniture market, and then always take a look at competition. So that should be your next thing, right? Like, so you've shown like what you're trying to achieve. You showed like the products you want to provide, and the industry overall, right? And so then take a look at what's the competition in this industry, right? So for us, right, obviously there's like DX Racer, AK Racing, Razor, and then always haven't even mentioned Secret Labs. And then show like who's best in class, who's an American company that's not making necessarily stamping made in the USA. Herman Miller is definitely one of those that's making USA products, but they're definitely high end. They do like $2,000, $2,500 desks and chairs. Razor's obviously dominant, but they're not making it in the USA, not yet. And even knowing that I post this video, they probably could, totally. I mean, the company we're building is going to be small fry to them. So they're going to see this or see, anything that has our brand or anything that comes up or any of the people I've talked to, they're going to be like, well, why don't we just do it? Hopefully, what it means is like they don't have the time. And having me personally built websites for Amazon in the past, which was shocking, I know that these major companies sometimes struggle to repivot and create a smaller department to do something that is pivotal and important to the economy, and we will likely see a lot of them reshore and bring manufacturing back. But for now, either way, MFC wants to provide that. We want to continue down this path of building USA made home office equipment, USA made e-sport equipment, and really listen and have our ear to the ground and work for our customers, because ultimately we work for you, right? And be able to support you on that. But so then you show the competition, you show the value, you show all right, what specifically for the chair, it was like, all right, what's the average sell price, right? And then next piece, you want obviously how to compete. So originally what we were saying, we're going to drive the only gaming chair made in America. That wasn't necessarily true when I first wrote this, but that takes learning and reading, right? Knowing that maybe AK Racing has a made in the USA chair, but they don't stamp it on there, or Herman Miller does make it in America, but it's way too expensive and they also don't stamp it. I think that's mostly just like either it's a high-end value thing, they just don't want it on product. Not surprising. And then we were thinking, all right, well, we want to counter or target specific teams. I think we've definitely taken a step back from that. We will get there eventually, but they still want to target like 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, Cloud9 version 1, NRG, or target some of the top gaming companies: Valve, Blizzard, Epic Games, EA. See if we can partner with them and get made in the USA products. And again, saying that it's not just because it's American, it's because my lead time is shortened dramatically. It's because I've increased community jobs, and also that I've reduced my carbon footprint, right? But also, like, it is made in America. A little bit of pride in there, but also all those things go into that, and that's important. And then still coming back to how to compete. Definitely want to work with, I want to work with the high schools. I want to work with club teams. I want to work with private teams, and then professional athletes, of course, I'd love to. And then as collegiate as well. And then, be able to supply, office equipment as well. But I want to help grow esports. So working with, the smaller teams, the local teams, get them their self-team branded chairs or self-team branded sit-to-stand desks with their school logo on the top. Definitely, that's right in line with what we want to do right now. And I think we can do it. We can already do it. So the companies we're working with have already, we're aligned to do that. It'll be manufactured in Michigan, Ohio, are a couple of our manufacturing plants that we're working with. And then our design firms out of Chicago, Q Design, huge shout out to them. They're freaking awesome. And we're excited to take this to market. So then, another piece to this was, how do we then, what else are we going to do? The profitability, excuse me. Definitely, I won't show you mine, but, I'll probably in the video clip show you just a brief breakdown of, components that you need to look at, right? Early on, I made assumed manufacturing costs, and I made assumed freight costs, knowing for the chair that they'd probably be a bit higher. And then packaging for, the outer packaging. And then if you're going to have your own warehouse, what's it cost for overhead? Keep in mind, you're probably, at a startup, you're probably going to be at like a 5 or 6% of overall costs, right? And then what's your 3PL costs, right? What is 3PL storage, right? If you don't know what that is, third-party logistics, utilizing another company's manufacturing plant for them to house your product. So, if they're going to charge you maybe $12 a pallet, or they're going to charge you, Amazon charges a lot. I think they charge somewhere in the ballpark of like 75 cents per cubic foot, which I think comes out to maybe $25 per pallet, give or take. It's significant. So keep that in mind if you want to use Amazon's 3PL facilities. I know they do FBA outside of Amazon. So, but there are other 3PL, ShipBob out there. And then, put in a defective allowance, how much you think are going to have an issue. Not necessarily that the product's going to break down, but, maybe a customer has a need to just send it back. That's normal. I put in 5%, it might be higher. Probably be higher, but that's something you got to be prepared for. So probably give yourself a buffer. And then, payment gateway fees, fraud protection fees. Payment gateways can be, somewhere between, 3% to 4.5% if you get unlucky. And then tax, right? On average across the U.S., you probably hit 8%, but it's probably going to be, more based on each state. Avalara is a good company to use for, setting up your taxation. And then, building out the your costs, knowing all of that built out, and then what your sell price would be. So I built those out, and then I put in what would be a healthy margin, right, in order to be able to continue to grow. So we definitely have some ads that or research and development put in there, and what we would need for dollars wise to make it all make sense. But this is an important piece, right? You can't do this without. You can't build a business case, I think, without collectively going through different components of a profitability sheet. And I think it's integral. And then build a roadmap, right? So the last piece for me was I built a roadmap. So far, we are about a third way through. So we added some people to our team recently to help with logistics, to help with marketing, to help with services, like IT services, IT setup. And so right now we went through basic first build, product design, determine initial manufacturing costs, build website, develop brand design, prototype. So we're right around prototype, social media presence, and then next step would be initiating a Kickstarter campaign. And so then moving from there, right, that would be, building direct-to-consumer fulfillment and sales. And so, there's different components to our strategy, but I wanted to walk through that. And doing a business case for your brand or your idea is pivotal. And I think it's even if it doesn't work out, you still have fun kind of putting it together, right? So it's been an intriguing, it's been a lot of fun. It's been exhausting, I'm not going to lie. Don't think that this is easy. It's exhausting, but it's awesome and it's fun. And I want to make sure that people, I want to walk through different components, different parts of this process, and kind of do little videos like this. And the next one, I'll try to talk about different components, what we did for brand and design, and just talk through that, where we work with, the Department of Development, in Oregon and Ohio and Colorado, and how they're actually a really good tool. So we'll talk about that on a couple more videos. But hopefully this was helpful. If it wasn't, oh well, I like, maybe there's some feedback you can give me. But yeah, thanks for listening. MFC.gg, that's our current website. My favorite company, my favorite chair. We're gonna build sit-to-stand, office esport desks. And then we're going to keep building more home office and more esport equipment as we move forward. Chairs coming in 2024. Please subscribe on our website so we can show you and give you discounts on what's coming. But really just want to, keep building on American-made products, American industry, reduce our carbon footprint, and work with you and have a quick response time to take care of our customers and our base and be there for you always. And that's our commitment to you. But thanks.